I lost $18 million and custody of my grandchildren in court. The judge's gavel echoed like a death sentence, and my world collapsed in a single afternoon. But as I packed my things and prepared to leave the only home I'd ever known, I found a key, one my late husband had hidden for years. That key led me to his old safe, tucked away behind a false wall in the basement. And what I found inside changed everything I thought I knew about my family, my marriage, and myself. My name is Margaret. I'm 74 years old. And if you think you know what heartbreak feels like, stay with me until the end, because the secret I uncovered in that safe was just the beginning of a story no one in my family will ever forget. The day I lost everything started like any other. I woke up before dawn, made myself a cup of tea, and sat by the window, watching the sun rise over the garden my husband and I had planted together decades ago. The house was quiet, too quiet, the kind of silence that settles in after years of laughter have faded into memory. I dressed carefully for court, choosing a navy blue suit that made me feel strong, even as my hands trembled. My lawyer, a kind woman named Evelyn, picked me up at 8. She tried to reassure me as we drove, but I could see the worry in her eyes. "We've done everything we can, Margaret," she said. "But you know how these things go." I nodded, staring out the window as the city blurred past. I thought about my grandchildren, Sophie and Ben, about the way they used to run into my arms, their laughter filling the house with light. I thought about my late husband Charles, and the promises we'd made to protect our family no matter what. The courtroom was packed. My daughter-in-law, Vanessa, sat at the plaintiff's table, her lips pressed into a thin line. My son, David, sat beside her, his eyes fixed on the floor. I tried to catch his gaze, to find some flicker of the boy I'd raised, but he wouldn't look at me. The judge entered, his face stern. The lawyers made their arguments, voices rising and falling in a rhythm I barely heard. I sat there, numb, as they debated my fitness as a guardian, my ability to manage the estate, my emotional stability after Charles's death. When the verdict came, it felt like the world stopped spinning. The judge's voice was cold, final. Custody of the minor children, Sophie and Ben, is awarded to their mother, Vanessa Carter. The estate, valued at $18 million, is to be placed in trust for the children, with Vanessa as trustee. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. I heard Evelyn's voice in my ear, telling me to stay calm, to keep my head high, but all I could think about was the empty house waiting for me, the laughter that would never return, the fortune I had spent a lifetime building, gone in an instant. Afterward, I packed my things in silence. The house felt like a museum, every room filled with memories I could no longer touch. I wandered from room to room, running my fingers over the photographs on the walls, the books on the shelves, the worn armchair where Charles used to read to the children. In the basement, I found a box of Charles's old things, tools, fishing gear, a stack of letters tied with string. As I moved the box, something clattered to the floor, a small brass key, tarnished with age. I picked it up, turning it over in my hand. I remembered Charles mentioning a safe, years ago, but I'd never seen it. He was a private man, always tucking things away, always planning for the future. I searched the basement, tapping on the walls, until I found a hollow spot behind the shelves. With trembling hands, I moved the shelves aside and found a false panel. Behind it was a small safe, the kind you see in old movies. My heart pounded as I slid the key into the lock and turned it. A door creaked open, revealing a stack of documents, a velvet pouch, and a sealed envelope with my name written in Charles's handwriting. I sat on the cold concrete floor, the safe open in front of me, and pulled out the envelope. My hands shook as I broke the seal and unfolded the letter inside. "Margaret, if you're reading this, it means I'm gone, and something has gone terribly wrong. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you from what was coming, but I hope what you find here will help you reclaim what's yours, and remind you that you are stronger than you know. All my love, Charles." Tears blurred my vision as I read his words. I reached into the safe and pulled out the documents, bank statements, property deeds, a second will, notarized and dated just 6 months before Charles died. My breath caught in my throat as I read the new will. It left everything, not just the money, but the house, the land, the family business, to me, with clear instructions that the grandchildren were to be cared for, but that Vanessa was never to have control of the estate. I stared at the papers, my mind racing. Why hadn't this will been found during probate? Why had my lawyer never mentioned it? Had someone hidden it, destroyed it? Or had Charles kept it secret, afraid of what Vanessa might do? I gathered the documents, the letter, the velvet pouch, and hurried upstairs. I called Evelyn, my voice shaking. I found something. You need to see it. Now. As I waited for her to arrive, I sat at the kitchen table, the safe open beside me, the letter clutched in my hand. For the first time since the verdict, I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe I hadn't lost everything after all, but I had no idea just how deep the secrets in that safe would go, or how much danger I was still in. Evelyn arrived within the hour, her coat still dusted with rain. She took one look at my face and knew something had changed. I led her down to the basement, my heart pounding as I showed her the safe, the documents, and Charles's letter. She read the will in silence, her eyes scanning each line, her brow furrowing deeper with every word. When she finished, she looked up at me, her expression a mix of shock and determination. "Margaret, this changes everything. This will is newer, notarized, and absolutely legal. If we can prove it was hidden or ignored during probate, we have grounds to challenge the court's decision." A wave of relief washed over me, but it was quickly replaced by fear. "Do you think Vanessa knew about this? Do you think she?" Evelyn shook her head. "It's possible. Or maybe someone in the process was careless. Or worse, complicit. But we can't jump to conclusions. We need to move fast, before anyone else finds out what you have." We spread the documents out on the kitchen table, piecing together the puzzle Charles had left behind. There were bank statements showing transfers to accounts I'd never seen, property deeds for land I didn't know we owned, and a velvet pouch containing a set of antique jewelry, family heirlooms Charles had always said were lost. But it was the letter that haunted me most. Charles's words were full of love, but also warning. "Trust no one but Evelyn," he wrote. "If Vanessa gets wind of this, she'll do anything to keep control. Protect yourself, Margaret, and protect the children." I read the letter over and over, searching for hidden meaning, for clues I might have missed. I thought about the years I'd spent trusting Vanessa, believing her when she said she only wanted what was best for Sophie and Ben. I thought about the way she'd smiled in court, the way she'd hugged me after the verdict, whispering, "It's for the best, Margaret. You need to rest now." Rest, as if I could ever rest again. Evelyn made copies of everything, locking the originals in her briefcase. "We'll file a motion first thing in the morning," she said. "But you need to be careful. Don't tell anyone what you found. Not even David." "Not yet." I nodded, fear settling in my chest like a stone. I trusted Evelyn, but the thought of keeping secrets from my own son made me ache. Still, I knew she was right. The stakes were too high. That night, I barely slept. I lay in bed, listening to the wind rattle the windows, the house creaking around me. I thought about Charles, about the life we'd built together, about the promises we'd made. I wondered if he'd known, even then, that it would come to this, a battle not just for money, but for the soul of our family. In the morning, I made coffee and sat at the kitchen table, staring at the safe. I thought about the years I'd spent protecting my family, about the sacrifices I'd made, about the love I'd given so freely. I wondered if any of it mattered now. Evelyn called at 9. "I've filed the motion. The judge will review it this week. In the meantime, keep everything locked up. And Margaret, be careful. If Vanessa suspects anything, she might try to stop you." I promised to be cautious, but the fear lingered. I spent the day cleaning the house, checking the locks, watching the street for unfamiliar cars. Every time the phone rang, my heart leapt into my throat. That afternoon, David called. His voice was strained, tired. "Mom, are you okay? Vanessa said you seemed upset after court." I hesitated, choosing my words carefully. "I'm fine, David. Just tired. It's been a long week." He sighed. "I know. I'm sorry about everything. I wish things were different." I wanted to tell him about the will, about the safe, about the hope that had flickered to life in the darkness. But I remembered Charles's warning. "Trust no one but Evelyn." "I love you, David," I said instead. "Take care of the kids." After we hung up, I sat in the quiet, the weight of secrets pressing down on me. I wondered if I was doing the right thing, if fighting for the estate was worth the risk, if I was protecting my family or tearing it apart. That night, I dreamed of Charles. He stood at the edge of the garden, his hands in his pockets, his eyes full of sorrow. "You're stronger than you think, Margaret," he said. "Don't let them take what we built. Don't let them erase you." I woke before dawn, the house silent around me, I made tea, wrapped myself in a blanket, and watched the sun rise over the garden. I thought about the safe, the will, the secrets that had been hidden for so long. I realized, with a kind of quiet certainty, that I couldn't give up. Not now, not when the truth was finally within reach. As the first light of morning filled the kitchen, I whispered a promise to Charles, to myself, to the family I still loved. I will fight. I will not disappear. And as I sipped my tea, I knew that whatever happened next, I was ready. The next few days were a blur of anxiety and anticipation. Evelyn called every morning with updates. "The judge is reviewing the motion," she said. "We should hear something soon." I tried to keep busy, cleaning, baking, tending the garden, but my mind kept drifting back to the safe, to Charles's letter, to the secrets that had been hidden in the shadows for so long. I avoided calls from Vanessa. She left voicemails, her tone syrupy sweet. "Margaret, I hope you're resting. Let me know if you need anything." I deleted them without listening to the end. I didn't trust myself to speak to her, not now, not with the truth burning in my chest. David called too, his voice strained. "Mom, Vanessa's worried about you. She says you've been distant. Is everything okay?" I forced a smile he couldn't see. "I'm fine, David, just tired. Tell the kids I love them." He hesitated, as if he wanted to say more, but then he just sighed. "We'll come visit soon." I hung up, the ache in my heart sharper than ever. I missed my grandchildren, their laughter, their hugs, the way they used to run through the house, filling every room with life. I wondered if they missed me, or if Vanessa had already started rewriting the story, painting me as the villain. On the third day, a letter arrived. No return address, just my name written in a hand I didn't recognize. My hands shook as I opened it. "Stop what you're doing. You're making a mistake. If you keep pushing, you'll lose more than just money." My breath caught in my throat. Was it a threat? A warning? I read the letter again, searching for clues, for any hint of who had sent it. The words were cold, final, and terrifying. I called Evelyn, my voice trembling. "I got a letter. Someone knows." She was silent for a moment. "Bring it to me. Don't talk to anyone else about this. And Margaret, be careful. This means we're getting close." I drove to Evelyn's office, the letter clutched in my hand. She read it, her jaw tightening. "This is intimidation. They're scared. That's good for us, but it means you need to be on your guard." We made copies of the letter, added it to the growing file of evidence. Evelyn promised to inform the judge, to make sure the court knew what was happening. "This only strengthens our case," she said, "but it also means Vanessa, or someone close to her, is desperate." That night, I double-checked the locks on the doors and windows. I left the porch light on, the way Charles used to, a small beacon in the darkness. I sat in the living room, the safe open beside me, the documents spread out on the coffee table. I read Charles's letter again, his words a lifeline in the storm. "Trust no one but Evelyn. Protect yourself. Protect the children." I thought about the years I'd spent trusting Vanessa, believing her lies, letting her into my home, my family, my heart. I wondered how long she'd been planning this, how long she'd been waiting for her chance to take everything. I made a list of everything I needed to do: call the bank, secure the accounts, change the locks, update my will. I wrote it all down, determined not to let fear paralyze me. The next morning, I went to the bank. The manager, Mr. Collins, greeted me with a polite smile. "Mrs. Carter, what can I do for you?" I explained the situation, showing him the new W.L., the documents from the safe, the letter from Charles. He listened carefully, his expression growing more serious with every word. "We can freeze the accounts," he said. "We'll need a court order to transfer control, but this will protect your assets until the judge makes a decision." I nodded, relief flooding through me. "Thank you, Mr. Collins. I just want to make sure my grandchildren are taken care of." He smiled, his eyes kind. "You're doing the right thing, Mrs. Carter. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." I left the bank feeling stronger, more in control. I drove home, the sun shining through the clouds, the world feeling a little less heavy. But when I pulled into the driveway, I saw Vanessa's car parked at the curb. My heart pounded as I got out of the car, the letter from the night before burning in my pocket. Vanessa stood on the porch, her arms crossed, her eyes cold. "We need to talk," she said, her voice sharp. I stood my ground. "About what?" She stepped closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "I know what you're doing. I know about the safe, the will, the lawyer. You're making a mistake, Margaret. You're going to lose everything. I met her gaze, refusing to back down. I've already lost enough. I'm not afraid of you, Vanessa. She laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. You should be. She turned and walked away, her heels clicking on the pavement. I watched her go, my hands shaking, but my resolve stronger than ever. That night, I called Evelyn and told her everything. She listened, her voice calm and steady. You did the right thing, Margaret. Don't let her scare you. We're almost there. I hung up, the fear still there, but now it was edged with something else. Determination. I sat by the window, watching the stars appear one by one, and whispered a promise to Charles, to myself, to the family I still loved. I will not be erased. I will not disappear. And as the night deepened, I knew that whatever happened next, I was ready to fight. The day of the emergency hearing arrived with a sky heavy and gray, threatening rain. I dressed with care, choosing a simple black dress and Charles's old locket, the one he gave me on our 20th anniversary. I tucked the letter from the safe into my purse, along with the new will and the threatening note. Evelyn picked me up, her presence a steady anchor in the storm. The courthouse was crowded, the air thick with tension. Vanessa was already there, her lawyer at her side, her face set in a mask of concern. David sat behind her, his eyes darting between us, torn and uncertain. I tried to catch his gaze, to find some flicker of the son I remembered, but he looked away. Evelyn squeezed my hand as we entered the courtroom. You're not alone, Margaret. Remember that. The judge entered, his expression unreadable. The lawyers made their arguments, voices rising and falling in a rhythm that felt both familiar and foreign. Evelyn presented the new will, the documents from the safe, the letter from Charles. She spoke clearly, her words cutting through the noise like a blade. Your Honor, this will is newer, notarized, and was hidden from the court during probate. My client was denied her rightful inheritance and, more importantly, her role as guardian to her grandchildren. We have evidence of intimidation and emotional abuse, as well as a direct threat to my client's safety. Vanessa's lawyer countered, his voice smooth and practiced. Your Honor, this is a desperate attempt to overturn a fair decision. My client has always acted in the best interests of her children. The so-called threat is nothing more than a misunderstanding. The judge listened, his eyes moving between us, weighing every word. When it was my turn to speak, I stood, my hands trembling, but my voice steady. I loved my husband. I loved my family. I never wanted any of this. But I will not be erased. I will not let my grandchildren grow up believing that love is something you can buy or steal. I am here because I have to be, because Charles asked me to protect what we built together. The courtroom was silent. I saw David wipe his eyes, saw Vanessa's jaw clench, saw the judge's expression soften just a little. Evelyn presented the threatening letter, the bank records, the footage from the safe. She called Mr. Collins, the bank manager, as a witness. He testified about the frozen accounts, the suspicious activity, the steps I had taken to protect the estate. Vanessa's lawyer tried to rattle me on cross-examination, but I held my ground. I told the truth, about the years of sacrifice, the love I had given, the pain of being shut out of my own family. I spoke about the night I waited in the hospital lobby, about the fear that had settled in my heart, about the promise I had made to Charles. When the hearing ended, the judge called a recess. I sat in the hallway with Evelyn, my hands shaking, my heart pounding. David approached, his face pale. Mom, I'm sorry, he whispered. I didn't know about the will. I didn't know what Vanessa was doing. I just wanted to keep the peace. I looked at him, searching for the boy I had raised. Sometimes keeping the peace means standing up for what's right, David. I hope you remember that. He nodded, tears in his eyes. I love you, Mom. I love you too, I said, my voice breaking. The judge returned, his decision swift and clear. The court finds in favor of the plaintiff. The new will is valid. Custody of the grandchildren is to be reviewed, with the best interests of the children as the primary concern. The estate is to be returned to Mrs. Carter, pending further investigation. A wave of relief crashed over me. I saw Vanessa's face crumble, saw David's shoulders sag with relief, saw Evelyn smile for the first time in weeks. But I knew the battle wasn't over. There would be more hearings, more questions, more pain. But for the first time, I felt hope. That night, I returned home, the house feeling lighter, the air easier to breathe. I sat in the living room, the safe open beside me, the letter from Charles in my hand. I whispered a promise to him, to myself, to the family I still loved. I will not be erased. I will not disappear. And as the rain began to fall outside, I knew that whatever happened next, I was ready to fight for my place in this world. The days after the hearing were a blur of paperwork, phone calls, and cautious hope. Evelyn worked tirelessly, gathering more evidence, preparing for the next round of court dates. The judge's decision had given me back the estate, at least for now, but custody of Sophie and Ben was still uncertain. The court appointed a guardian ad litem to interview everyone, to decide where the children would be safest and happiest. I tried to focus on the small victories. The house was mine again, the locks changed, the accounts secured. I walked through each room, reclaiming the space with every step. I hung new curtains in the kitchen, planted daffodils in the garden, and filled the pantry with food for the first time in months. The house felt alive again, as if I whispered a prayer, asking for strength, for wisdom, for the courage to keep going. The next morning I dressed carefully, choosing a dress Sophie had picked out for me last Christmas. I pinned Charles's locket to my collar, a small shield against the fear. Evelyn picked me up, her presence steady and calm. "You're ready, Margaret. No matter what happens, you've already won. You refuse to disappear." As we drove to the courthouse, I felt a strange sense of peace. I had done everything I could. The rest was out of my hands. The courtroom was full, the air thick with anticipation. Vanessa sat at the plaintiff's table, her face pale but determined. David sat behind her, his eyes fixed on me, a silent plea for forgiveness. The judge entered, and the final hearing began. The judge's gavel sounded, and the courtroom fell silent. I sat with Evelyn at my side, my hands folded tightly in my lap, Charles's locket warm against my skin. Vanessa's lawyer spoke first, painting her as a devoted mother, a woman wronged by circumstance, a victim of my supposed manipulation. He questioned my age, my health, my ability to care for Sophie and Ben. He called witnesses, Vanessa's friends, a neighbor who barely knew me, even a doctor who had never treated me. I listened, my heart pounding, as they tried to erase me with words, but I refused to shrink. When it was Evelyn's turn, she stood tall, her voice clear and unwavering. She presented the new will, the bank records, the threatening letter. She called Mr. Collins, who testified about the frozen accounts and the suspicious activity. She called Eloise, my neighbor, who spoke about the years she'd watched me care for my grandchildren, about the love and stability I'd given them. Then it was my turn. I stood, my knees trembling, and faced the judge. I spoke about Charles, about the life we'd built, about the promise I'd made to protect our family. I spoke about the night I waited in the hospital lobby, about the fear and loneliness that had settled in my heart. I spoke about Sophie and Ben, about the laughter and love they brought into my life, about the pain of being separated from them. "I am not perfect," I said, my voice steady. "But I am their grandmother. I have loved them since the day they were born. I have cared for them, protected them, and given them everything I have. I am not asking for money or property. I am asking for the chance to be part of their lives, to keep the promise I made to their grandfather." The judge listened, his expression unreadable. When I finished, he nodded, his eyes softening just a little. Vanessa took the stand, her voice trembling with emotion. She spoke about her fears, her struggles, her belief that she was doing what was best for her children. She cried, her tears real, but I saw the calculation behind them. She was fighting for control, not for love. The guardian ad litem presented her report. She spoke about the children's bond with me, about the stability and love I had provided, about the confusion and pain they felt being caught in the middle. She recommended shared custody, with the children spending equal time with both Vanessa and me. The judge called a recess. I sat in the hallway with Evelyn, my hands shaking, my heart pounding. David approached, his face pale. "Mom, I'm sorry," he whispered. "I should have done more. I should have protected you." I hugged him, tears stinging my eyes. "We're here now. That's what matters." When the judge returned, the courtroom was silent. He spoke slowly, his voice firm. "After reviewing all the evidence, the court finds that the new will is valid and enforceable. The estate is to be returned to Mrs. Carter, with provisions for the grandchildren's care. Custody of Sophie and Ben will be shared between Mrs. Carter and their mother, with a schedule to be determined by the court. The court finds evidence of intimidation and emotional abuse, and orders counseling for all parties." A wave of relief crashed over me. I saw Vanessa's face crumble, saw David's shoulders sag with relief, saw Evelyn smile for the first time in weeks. The judge continued, "This case is a reminder that family is not just about blood or inheritance, but about love, sacrifice, and the choices we make. I hope all parties can find a way to heal and move forward." The courtroom emptied slowly. Vanessa left without a word, her lawyer trailing behind. David hugged me, his tears soaking my shoulder. "Thank you, Mom, for everything." Evelyn squeezed my hand. "You did it, Margaret. You refused to disappear." That night, I returned home, the house feeling lighter, the air easier to breathe. I sat in the living room, the safe open beside me, Charles's letter in my hand. I whispered a promise to him, to myself, to the family I still loved. I will not be erased. I will not disappear. And as the rain began to fall outside, I knew that whatever happened next, I was ready to live again. The days after the final hearing felt like waking up from a long, exhausting dream. The house was mine again, but it felt different, emptier, quieter, but also full of possibility. I walked through each room, touching the walls, the furniture, the photographs that had survived the storm. I opened the windows, letting in the fresh air, and for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. Sophie and Ben came to stay with me the following weekend. Their laughter filled the house, echoing off the walls, chasing away the last shadows of fear. We baked cookies, played board games, and spent hours in the garden, planting new flowers and telling stories about Charles. I watched them run through the yard, their faces bright with joy, and felt a deep sense of gratitude. I had fought for them, and now they were home. David visited often, sometimes alone, sometimes with the children. He apologized again and listened. And again, his guilt heavy in every word. "I should have protected you, Mom. I should have seen what was happening." I forgave him, but I could see the pain in his eyes, the way he struggled to forgive himself. Vanessa kept her distance. The court had ordered counseling, and she attended every session, but our conversations were brief, polite, and strained. I wondered if she would ever see me as anything other than an obstacle, if she would ever understand the love that had driven me to fight for my family. I hoped, for the children's sake, that she would find her own path to healing. Evelyn remained by my side, her friendship a constant source of strength. We celebrated the victory quietly, sharing a bottle of wine in the garden, toasting to resilience, to truth, to the power of refusing to disappear. "You did it, Margaret," she said, her eyes shining. "You showed them all that you are not invisible." I smiled, feeling the truth of her words settle deep in my heart. I just wanted to keep my promise to Charles, to protect our family, to make sure our story didn't end in silence. The support group at the community center became a lifeline. I shared my story with other women, mothers, grandmothers, daughters, each of them fighting their own battles, each of them refusing to be erased. We laughed, we cried, and we reminded each other that we were not alone. As the weeks passed, the wounds began to heal. The house felt warmer, the garden brighter, the laughter of children a balm to my soul. I found myself looking forward to each new day, to the small joys that had once seemed out of reach. One afternoon, Sophie came to me with a question. "Grandma, are you happy now?" I knelt beside her, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "I am, sweetheart. I'm happy because we're together, because we're safe, because we have each other." She hugged me tight, her small arms wrapped around my neck. "I love you, Grandma. I love you too, Sophie. Always." That night, as I sat on the porch, watching the stars appear one by one, I thought about the journey I had taken, the fear, the pain, the fight for justice. I realized that survival isn't just about winning in court, it's about reclaiming your life, your dignity, your place in the world. I whispered a quiet thank you to Charles, to Evelyn, to everyone who had helped me find my voice. I promised myself that I would never let anyone erase me again. And as the night deepened, I knew that whatever the future held, I was ready to face it, with courage, with hope, and with the unwavering belief that I mattered. Spring arrived with a gentle promise, buds on the trees, birdsong in the morning, and sunlight streaming through the kitchen window. The house, once a battleground, was now a sanctuary. I filled it with fresh flowers, laughter, and the smell of baking bread. Sophie and Ben's drawings covered the refrigerator, and their laughter echoed through the halls. The wounds of the past were still there, but they were healing. replaced by hope and the quiet certainty that we had survived. David visited often, bringing the children, sometimes staying for dinner. Our conversations grew easier, the old tension replaced by understanding. He apologized less, and instead, he listened more. We talked about Charles, about the lessons he'd taught us, about the importance of family and forgiveness. I saw the man I'd raised, the father he was becoming, and I felt proud. Vanessa kept her distance, but the anger in her eyes had faded. She attended counseling, worked on rebuilding her relationship with the children, and even sent a note of apology, brief but sincere. I didn't know if we would ever be close, but I hoped, for Sophie and Ben's sake, that we could find peace. Evelyn remained my anchor. We spent long afternoons in the garden, planting new flowers, sharing stories, and laughing about the absurdities of life. She reminded me that strength isn't always loud, that sometimes it's the quiet determination to keep going, to keep loving, to keep believing in yourself. The support group at the community center flourished. More women joined, each with her own story of survival, each refusing to be erased. We celebrated every victory, no matter how small: a new job, a reconciled relationship, a day without tears. I found strength in their courage, and they found hope in mine. One evening, as I sat on the porch with Sophie and Ben, watching the fireflies dance in the twilight, Sophie turned to me and asked, "Grandma, will you always be here?" I hugged her close, breathing in the scent of her hair. "As long as I can, sweetheart. And even when I'm not, you'll always have my love." She smiled, her eyes shining. "You're the bravest person I know." I kissed her forehead, tears stinging my eyes. "I just did what I had to do, for you, for Ben, for our family." As the stars appeared in the sky, I thought about the journey we had taken, the fear, the pain, the fight for justice. I realized that survival isn't just about winning in court. It's about reclaiming your life, your dignity, your place in the world. It's about refusing to disappear, no matter how hard others try to erase you. I whispered a quiet thank you to Charles, to Evelyn, to everyone who had helped me find my voice. I promised myself that I would never let anyone erase me again. And now, I want to ask you, the one listening to my story, what would you do if you lost everything only to find a secret that could change your life? Would you fight for your place, or would you let yourself disappear? I want to hear your thoughts. Please share them in the comments. If my story moved you, please like this video. It helps more people find hope when they need it most. Subscribe to this channel for more real stories of survival, courage, and the power of choosing yourself. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, share it with them. You might just give them the strength to refuse to disappear. With all my heart, thank you for listening. Until next time.